All right, we're live on the Archer Football Podcast, College Edition. I am your hostess this evening, Cleveland Kate. Our girl Sonia had to work. She's on some rugged midnight shifts, and she's got a wicked schedule this week. Michelle, the sports jinx, is with me as always. And because we have a national championship game coming, and one of the biggest Notre Dame fighting Irish fans we know is our good friend Wanda. We have Aunt Wanda with us today. Girl, I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. I miss you girls so much. It's this
I feel like I avoided you during the NFL season because I know you're a Bears fan and things have not gone well for your team or mine the last couple seasons.
No. Not at all.
With this light on my I'm trying to get that light out of my head. I think that's a little better. I'm just going to sit sideways. You're out in California, right? Are you staying safe from the fires?
Yeah, it was about 20 miles from my house, so it wasn't too bad. Didn't go over the ridge on our side, so we were pretty safe.
Well, that's good because if the wind blows the wrong way, 20 miles is not far enough.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we had our cars packed. We had the evacuation warning, so just to, as soon as the winds pick up, just make sure you're watching your surroundings, and we pretty much did that, so we're good.
Yep. Michelle, how you doing? You staying safe there?
Yep. Staying out of the cold.
Good. Well, this has been a super fun season. We have been launched this college football podcast. I guess I should say hello to Kristen and Big Red and Bob, who are chatting with us in the comment section. If you are watching us on Facebook or Twitter, X, please come on over to our YouTube channel because there we will see your comments. They may get put up on the screen. We will answer your questions. We will mock your opinions if appropriate, and all that kind of stuff. So we have just had a really good time this whole year talking college football. I think for a lot of the people that watch, and then even for some of us, I think it has really helped us to be better prepared for the Senior Bowl, the Combine, the draft that's coming up. And then having this new 12-team playoff system, Wanda, I don't know about you. I think I've seen some of the best postseason college football this year that I've ever seen.
I totally agree. I think it was just nail-biting. Some of it was so exciting. I loved watching every single game. It was awesome.
Michelle's been telling everybody for years there is a ton of good football out there at the college level. And hopefully we tried to highlight some of the divisions that nobody talks about this year, not just the SEC and the Big Ten, even though that's where our teams are from, and the ACC, but, Notre Dame, who's not in a division. And then, some of the other smaller divisions we talked about this year. So it's just been a blast. Last weekend, it feels like so long between the semifinal games now and the final. I guess they had to accommodate the NFL. So that's why we don't have a championship game until Monday. But we had a lot of really exciting stuff going on last week. The Penn State Notre Dame game happened. And obviously Notre Dame won. And I can't find my final scores because, it's going to be that kind of a day for me.
I believe it's 27-24. I think that was the game.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
27-24. That one was a little closer. And really, I mean, at halftime, it was 10-3. And then Notre Dame just took them to them. They let Penn State get back in, let them score 14 points in the fourth quarter. The unprofessional part of me wants to say, is Marcus Freeman the most attractive head coach in the NCAA? But that's like a girl question, and we're going to let that go. Wanda, he's just done a very good job with this squad.
He has. He his thing when he first got the head coaching job, he was going to prove to Brian Kelly that you can recruit top players to play it, for Notre Dame. And he went full on, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to get these players. And he was just grabbing players and building them. And I think one of the really and not to say attractive on the outside, but the attractive things about the game and about him as a head coach is how he is that perfect example of a leader of men, since that seems to be the conversation everywhere. But he is this leader of men, and he's leading these men to play on a field in a battlefield. Go win the game. Just, you know what to do. It almost sounds Belichick like you know how
Yeah.
to play the game. You know what to do. Go do your job. And
I mean, he
that's and
carries
they
himself very well
yes.
on the sidelines in press conferences and stuff. You know, Michelle, we've seen some coaches in these playoffs having fits about timeouts and having to wait for, you know, defenses to get on the field and, you know, having their little hissy fits on the side. Even with bad calls and no calls, Marcus Freeman seems to just be a calm, cool, collected grown-up.
Yep.
He
And he lead, the leader, you lead from the top. And so his
Mhm.
demeanor and the way he handles himself that's how his team handles themselves. And so when they're out of a game or it seems like they may not win or whatever, they fight, they keep playing, they keep their head on the field, and they just do what needs to happen. And so, you think about the Notre Dame fans calling for his head when they lost that second game of the season. In fact, both of these coaches are coaches who people were asking to be fired earlier in the season or late in the season, and here they are now in the plan for the championship. So how ironic is that? But yeah,
Yeah,
Marcus
I'm one of
Freeman
those
handles
people.
himself well.
I
He's a
know I'm
defensive
one of those
player,
people.
so
We'll get to that when we talk about Ryan Day and the Ohio State. Does Notre Dame have to worry about Marcus Freeman getting offers from the NFL? Or do you
No,
think
I
you
honestly
think he
don't.
stays?
I honestly do not. Yeah, I think he stays. I think he has too much invested in it, and I think he wants to give himself more time to build this program in a solid way. I don't think he wants to pull a Brian Kelly and leave right before the championship or as he's building this team just to try and recruit. He's got everything there, and I think it's just worth it for him to stay longer, get more wins, more championships for Notre Dame under his belt before he goes off to the NFL.
Yeah. Michelle, when we talked about this game leading up to it, 24-27 doesn't surprise us because Penn State just kept quietly finding ways to win. Was this pretty much the game you expected?
it was a great defensive game. They were hitting, man, both teams, both sides of the ball. They were hitting. I love defense, so I was actually enjoying the game. I think I said Notre Dame by 4, and Sonia said Notre Dame by 3. So we expected a close game. We expected the game to go all the way down to the wire, and that one did. So it did not disappoint. I truly enjoyed it. It was probably, I don't know. It seems like they got it right. They got at least these top 4 teams. But yeah, with Notre Dame's defense and Penn State's defense, you knew that it was going to be a defensive banger, and it was going to go down to the end. And who can make a play at the end and who can make a stop at the end was going to be the difference in that game. So I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Drew Aller for Penn State threw 1 interception, no touchdowns. They did all their scoring on the ground with that running back Singleton that they have. But Riley Leonard actually threw 2 interceptions and then had 1 touchdown in the air. And then they had 2, he scored 1 on the ground. And then Jay Love had 1 as well. Sonia, were you surprised at the interceptions? Was Penn State defense just that good? Was Riley a little rattled?
Yeah, I mean, I think he started slow, and it obviously showed that he started slow. And it wasn't until halftime when they went into the locker room that Freeman just gave his speech on being these men on the field and playing to win, and it just kind of sparked something in Riley to where he just this time actually threw the ball down the field. And now you started seeing some balls in the air because when he had that concussion that where they were looking like he had a concussion and they had Steve Angeli come in, Angeli did pretty well in moving the ball and getting that touchdown. So it obviously kind of lit a fire, I think, there for Leonard to show, okay, if you don't do your job, someone else is ready to step in and do that for you. So I think
Well, that, and
he
I
came
thought
up.
at the time, Angeli coming in and then staying in. I know they had to do the evaluation, took their time, said we
Right.
might as well just leave him until the half. I thought that actually worked out really well because the Penn
Yeah.
State defense was not ready for him. He is a
Yeah.
very different quarterback than Riley Leonard, and they were worried about his legs and all the things that Leonard does, and that's not what Angeli is. And I think that helped them not only with getting that score, but get a little mental momentum going into the half that they definitely pulled on in the second half.
Well,
Yeah, I
plus he
agree.
was moving the ball. So when
Yep.
he came in and they instantly started moving down the field. So just like you said, you don't want to break that momentum.
Right.
Whether the other guy was ready or not, he had the momentum going. He had them, and they were moving the ball, unlike they had been with their starter in there. They actually looked better for that drive. Once he came in, like you said, it threw the defense off a little bit. He was a better passer, and that's what they actually needed for that in the game at that point. So I think it sparked them a little,
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
So some comments from Big Red. I kind of wish Notre Dame would just give in and be an official member of the ACC in all sports. Wanda, you got to hear this from everybody. Why won't they join a conference for football? I want them in the Big Ten. But if they're in the ACC for their other sports, I don't feel like it's ever going to happen. Do you?
No, I don't think so. I think they really like that independence. And I mean, they're relishing in that full on 14 mil that they got, that they don't have to share with no one. So, they're not, if they can prove that they can be and play with the big boys, why should they change?
Yeah. I mean, really at this point with the playoff system, the way it is, the biggest benefit of getting that bye, if you're a conference champion, they don't have an option for that. But if they run the table, then that just proves you don't need to be in a conference. Big Red also says, my question for Ohio State is, where was this offense and defense against Michigan? Oh, we're going to talk about that. And by the way, Marcus Freeman, you're welcome for the kicker that you got from South Carolina.
Yeah. That finally panned out.
Yeah. So the Ohio State-Texas game was very different to me. It felt different. That game ended up being 28-14. It was 7-0 after one, 14-7 at half, 14-14 after three. And then the Ohio State defense just finally went to town, got up 28-14 in the fourth quarter, and then held on to that. Pretty much what I expected. Michelle, pretty much what you expected out of this game?
We talked about it last week, and I'm saying Texas goes as yours goes, and how's he's going to play. And, he hadn't been playing well, and he didn't look good in this game. And when he doesn't look good, they have a hard time, and they struggle. And this was the time they needed him to play big. I know we talked about, Manning possibly coming in, but I felt like, this is the guy you played with all season. You're going to win or lose with him. And they did that, but he just couldn't get it going. But you got to give the hats off to Ohio State's defense because they were on him like flies. I mean, they didn't give him any time to breathe. And so he just looked lost out there. They didn't look like, once they came out in the second half and Ohio State's defense, I think I even tweeted like Ohio State's defense has taken over this game. Yeah. And this you can see the end. It was over early and you can see that there was no way they were coming back from that game at all.
He had 2 touchdowns in the air, 1 interception. They just couldn't run the ball at all. They had their Wisner, who is their big running back, had 46 yards. That's where I think they struggled the most, is that Ohio State's defense took away, the secondary took away their receivers, and then the line took away their gaps to run the ball. The Buckeyes had, Will Howard had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I'm not in love with my quarterback, but he is what he is, and he does what he does. But Judkins had 2 touchdowns. They really did a good job of stopping Travion Henderson, who's our big feature back. So we just put Judkins in there, which is, where your line does your best work. I commented last week on the show, and again, I did it on Twitter this week. that loss to Michigan, while I hate it and it grates and it's awful, really woke this team up. This has been a completely different team since that loss to Michigan. We saw it against Tennessee, we saw it against Oregon, and then we saw it this past week against Texas. I think Notre Dame needs to be afraid. I think Notre Dame would easily beat the Ohio State that played Michigan, but hopefully they took that Michigan game plan, threw it away, burned it, shredded it, did whatever with that. But I don't see either team running away with this game. I see it being another close one, maybe like the Notre Dame Penn State one, maybe a 3 or 4 point game with a whole lot of defense.
I totally agree. And I think this game is only going to be won through the trenches. That's my gut feeling on it. I think there's, they're going to be focused on stopping the run. I think Notre Dame is going to have to focus, which is one of their weaknesses, is covering the perimeter, and the way that Ohio State runs on the perimeter. That's going to be something that they're going to have to really focus on doing. But then again, if they do that, then that leaves the wide receivers to be all through the middle part. So it's going to be interesting what Al Golden does in the defense and putting that together to slow Ohio State down.
Yeah. My initial thought is this 10-11 day gap between when they won their games in the semis and when the actual championship game happens was too much. I didn't think it was. I hate that they have to sit for 10-11 days. But I agree with your point that this game is going to be won or lost in the trenches. So maybe having those 10-11 days to rest and get healthy helps to both defenses, at least, to make sure they're at a 100%. Michelle, what are your thoughts on, you think this is going to be another defensive game? And do you think this big gap of time to rest helps or hurts them?
Well, the gap is the gap. They've had these gaps for some time. I particularly don't like them because I forget about the college games once the NFL playoffs come. Probably if we weren't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't even see the game because I always forget that they're still playing. But I just think that Notre Dame is going to have their hands full. I mean, if they can't stop that running game, if they cannot stop. And I always just, if they can't stop the running game of Ohio State, they're going to have some problems. But another defense, again, you have two great defenses. I just think that the Ohio State that played last week and the Ohio State that played the week before, they don't look like they can be beat. That's just how good they've been playing. And so I think it's going to be hard. Notre Dame's quarterback, they're going to need something big from him to keep them in the game. They can't settle for field goals or go for fourth downs and not make these points are going to come at a minimum, and they're going to have to put some points on the board to stick with Ohio State because Ohio State has explosive players and they can hit you quick. And and before you know it, you're down by 14. And so. Right. Notre Dame going to have to take I think for them to be successful, they have to take a few long drives, one of those long old school blue collar drives, and just eat some of the clock, keep the offense on the sideline and try to wear down that defense.
Yeah, because the problem is if you let Ohio State do that, you let them get a couple quick scores, then that ends up boomeranging on them because then their defense has had no time to rest. So if Notre Dame can have those long sustained drives, I feel like that's something Chip Kelly and Ryan Day are going to push with the Ohio State offense. Is the explosive plays are great, but there are times where they're going to need to run the ball and need a sustained drive to make sure that defense can rest. Because it doesn't matter if you go in and score a touchdown in 2 plays and then your defense comes out and gives up a touchdown in 2 plays because they haven't had time to rest. Lisa's checking in with us. Our girl Lisa, who only loves quarterbacks. Hey. Because nobody gives a shit about kickers
until they need them to win the game.
But in this game, the kickers are going to matter. To your point, Michelle, every point matters. And if you get down to a 4th down where it's like, do I trust my kicker to take the field goal or do I have to go for it? I don't know that either of these teams have a kicker that's money. those are going to be some decisions that they may be even making them in the game based on pregame warmups on how these kids look. Wanda, you love your kicker? You like your kicker? Do you know your kicker? Do you care about your kicker?
Well, Jeter was having some issues before, but during the championship games, he's actually been pretty solid. So again, I'm one of those that is, please don't lead the game to be decided by a kicker.
In his hands or in his feet.
Yeah, exactly. I have the doink nightmare. So, the double doink nightmare stays with me for a lifetime. So, but I would love to just see them win on the ground, in the air, do what you need to do to be up a score. When you're trailing, now you got to catch up. If you're leading, just keep it rolling.
Yeah. So a little conversation that's going on in the chat revolves around Ryan Day. I was one of those people who wanted him fired when he lost to Michigan. I am in the very, very, very small minority who would rather beat Michigan than win a national championship. And that's because I'm 58 years old and I am old school football. My dad, God rest his soul, raised me with rivalry in mind, and that's more important than anything else. And I wanted Ryan Day gone. And I do believe he's been coaching for his job. I believe if he'd have lost at any point in the playoffs, if he'd have lost, while they talk the talk, they're like, oh, he has the highest winning percentage of any coach in the Big Ten, and he can beat any team except Michigan. All of that. I think if he had lost, that it would be there would be a conversation. But he's winning, and now I don't know. He's in a national championship game. I don't know if he wins or loses. I don't think it affects his job. I think he's fine. I think the school wants him back. I think somebody asked if Ohio State goes back to mediocrity if they lose this game. What's interesting to me about this Ohio State team is we don't have that many people that are leaving for the draft. In previous years, we've had to deal with half the team, the wide receivers. You want a good wide receiver in the NFL, find one that went to Ohio State or LSU. Iowa produces tight ends. Ohio State and LSU produces wide receivers. We've had some quarterbacks head to the NFL, but they have not done well. I don't even need to list their names for you. I don't think Will Howard is an NFL caliber quarterback, but he's a solid college quarterback. I got another year of Geno Smith's cousin Jeremiah. I'm super excited for him to come back next year. So I don't think there's a problem with next year, what the Buckeyes are going to look like, because they're pretty much bringing everybody back. Wanda, is there any backlash for Notre Dame if they lose? Are y'all just happy they got there? I don't think Morgan Freeman. I don't think Marcus Freeman has to worry about his job, but
yeah,
are y'all just happy to be there?
I mean, I'm happy.
Does it depend on how you lose? Because that's a thing.
Yeah,
too.
see, that's the key. That's the key. I think it depends on how. If we get slaughtered, yeah, that's a big deal. Because
that was what bothered me about the Ohio State Michigan game. I hate to keep going back to it, but I will. They were a 6-win team. If I lose to Notre Dame, if I lose to the better team, if I play my best and y'all play your best and you beat me, I'm going to tip my hat and tell you good game. If you beat me 42-3 and I'm making mistakes all over that pre-snap penalties and all of that stuff, that's where I struggle. And I don't think either of these coaches will have their teams making sloppy mistakes. I think they're both going to be prepared.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, once Notre Dame lost to NIU, that was a huge catalyst to get this team to clean up, do what they needed to do, and they've been on a run since. Watching the penalties and making sure that they clean up all the mistakes that they made to get to where they are now. So I don't think they want to be slaughtered the way they were and embarrassed the way they were against NIU with Ohio State. But, I think at the same time, Notre Dame fans want to see them win the championship. It's been a long time, and it's, they want to see it being a competitive game to where it stops the talk of Notre Dame being irrelevant, in the conference. It's just, there's too much of the talk. I mean, Cam Newton thinking that the Notre Dame shouldn't be the Cinderella story. Well, they don't want to be a Cinderella story. They want to be a competitive football team and bring back the Irish games that used to be for years. You know, when you had Joe Montana and you had, the bus in there. They want everything to be where it used to be. And I think that's where the Irish fans are really standing on. Let's win this as we know we can.
Yeah, and I think winning this will mean more to their recruiting than it will if Ohio State wins. Because I think Ohio State's going to get players anyway. They want to play in the Big Ten. Whereas with Notre Dame, you listen, unless your dad's or mom's a Notre Dame fan or Catholic or something, it's not at the top of your list, but this moves it up there with a quality coach like Marcus Freeman and then a program that's now winning games. I mean, you get TV coverage. You get as many professional scouts at a Notre Dame game as you do at an Ohio State or a Florida game or whatever. Is there, I don't know if this is wanted for you, but maybe Michelle, if you want to chime in too. If memory serves, the last time Notre Dame was in a championship game, it was against Alabama and things did not go well. Is there like a bitter taste from that? Is winning this getting kind of a chip off your shoulder because you can win the big game? Or do we not think about that Alabama game at all?
Notre Dame hasn't been to an FCS championship. That was the BCS championship, so they haven't even been in the postseason. But Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They play on NBC. They're on national TV, on regular TV. They're in the national championship game, and so they're not some program that some small little Indiana or some program. It's Notre Dame. They've always had good recruits. They've always been able to acquire those. They just haven't had a coach that got them there. So if this coach loses and you're saying the fans are going to be upset and want him gone, then that's a problem with the fans because they haven't gotten to this part. They've had the talent. They always have the talent because they are Notre Dame, which is why they stand alone and do not get into a conference because they don't have to. They don't have to. And so I think win or lose, he should be fine. Mean, he's still going to get offers from the NFL because that's what they do. They try to get the hottest college coaches, and he may or may not go, particularly if he doesn't win. I mean, it may be a different story if he wins, but I don't think he will leave. But I think that win or lose, Notre Dame has done what they haven't been able to done and what they've been searching for, and that's to get to the national and play for a national championship and to do it in a new system without being in a conference and everybody saying they weren't supposed to be there. So win or lose, I think they are in good shape moving forward as long as they keep the coach that's there that got them there. So I think they should
exactly.
be fine.
Yeah. Notre Dame did that in some ways. I call it the smart thing by losing that game early. Because it gave them the whole season to work their way back up the ranking. It gave them the whole season to see. There are an awful lot of teams, and Ohio State's one of them, who I think would have benefited by losing a game in the first 3-4 weeks. So you could see where your weaknesses are. It's one thing to watch tape and say, here, you didn't do this right or that right, when the player's thinking, yeah, but we won anyway. But when you lose to an NIU, or you lose to a Vanderbilt like Alabama did, or you lose to an Appalachian State early, it wakes you up. So Notre Dame had the whole rest of the year to fix those mistakes and to work their way up the ranks. Where with the Buckeyes losing to Michigan, if this was the old system, they wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. Y'all would have had time to work your way up to the top 4 rankings, but we would have been knocked out of the top 4 and in the old system wouldn't have made it through. And yet look at what they've done by expanding it to 12 games. I don't think there was a single team that didn't deserve to be there. I can't think of a team that should have been there that wasn't. And every single game I watched was really good and really competitive. So I'm very happy with the 12-game playoff. I think they got it right.
I think they did. Yep.
I agree. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to next year after this game. When is the game? No, I'm just joking.
So the game is next Monday. I got to tell you, it is my grandson Miguel's 11th birthday. And he said the only thing he wants for his birthday is an Ohio State national championship.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if we can give him that or not, but I'm picking my Buckeyes by 3. I'm only going to go by 3. Wanda, you got a prediction for us?
I was going to say the same thing, by 3, but I want to say Notre Dame. I really do. But if they can't stop the run, I think it's going to be a problem. Even if they do stop Ohio State's run, they've got to cover the wide receivers and in the air. So it all depends. As an Irish, I have to say Notre Dame by 3, but there is the football part of me that says Ohio State. So
I think
I'm
you're
going to
right.
stay
They're
with my
capable.
Irish because I am wearing my
Michelle's
Irish
going to say, yeah, Michelle's going to say it depends on which team shows up for both schools, right, Michelle?
Well, I'm not a big Ohio State fan because of all of that stuff.
I
But
know.
Yeah.
and if I was picking with my heart, I probably would pick Notre Dame. But I believe that I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Ohio State by 10 to win the game. I just think that Ohio State is a more complete team. I think that was one of the questions in our chat, but I think they are a more complete team, and offensively because of the explosiveness and their ability to score and have explosive plays. I think the defenses even each other out, but then on the offensive side, Ohio State has that explosiveness, and I think that's going to put them over the edge. That'll put them over the edge. Lisa says 23.
Vegas has the spread at 8.5. Ohio State minus 8.5, which I just feel like is a lot. And then the over under at 46.5. I will not be betting on either of those.
Big Red, I'm not rooting for Notre Dame. I told you she didn't want to talk about that, but I'm just rooting for cuteness on the sideline. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you. Lisa says, I just want a good game. Unfortunately, I feel like Ohio State will run away with this one. I think talent-wise they could, but I also I love Marcus Freeman. I love what he's done with this team. If anyone could have that team prepared, it's him.
Yeah,
and they're going to be ready for it. So
exactly. If it was Brian Kelly, Kelly, hands down, I would be saying it would be Ohio State.
His head would already be on his next interview for an NFL job. Like I never felt like his heart was in that job.
And he's mean. I definitely wouldn't vote for him. Cheer for him.
Yeah, but with Marcus Freeman, I believe that he's really got these guys believing that they can win this game. So we'll see what happens on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a good game too. I just want it to be a good game.
How can Michelle root for Notre Dame with their rivalry with her Canes?
I don't like either one of them, Big Red. That's what I'm saying.
She just likes what's on the sideline.
Yeah, if he saw me on Twitter, I tweeted sometime early in the beginning of the season, like I forgot I hated Notre Dame. I'm sitting here looking at Marcus Freeman and cheering for Notre Dame. My mistake.
Nothing wrong with looking. Is the game going to come down to a kicker's duel? Lord, I hope not. But the last thing I was reminded of, one of the questions from the chat that isn't about this game, actually. Did I see that Beck is going to become a Hurricane?
Yeah, I saw that.
Is that a thing, or is that how would you feel about it if he did? Has he decided yet? Is he hitting the transfer portal?
I think
Carson Beck, right?
I think Lisa came up with about $4 million for him to get him there.
All I know is I saw some stuff on the socials about him getting creepy in girls' DMs and sending nasty pictures and stuff. And I no.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not one of those people that follow like who comes to the team. I just wait for them to get ready. When they get it all together, then I'll go and check and see who they who we have.
All right. Great talk today, ladies. Wanda, thank you so much for being here. Good luck next Monday. I think we all agree it's going to be a good game, and none of us will be surprised if one side or the other wins. Okay. I will be more surprised if it's a blowout either way than anything else. I really do. Right. With the way these defenses have been playing, I really do expect this to be a good game. We will be back next Wednesday, the 22nd, to talk about how the game went, and Sonia will be back with us. I may or may not be back. I have to go to Louisville for work next week. I'm driving down on Wednesday, so I don't know if I'll get to my hotel in time to jump on, but I may still be crying over my loss on Monday night on Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But thank you, everyone, for joining us this whole season and for tonight as well. Wanda, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Love you. Miss you. My football sister. And thank you, Michelle. Love you. I will see you all later. Let's see if I can figure out how to end this stream.
Love you, ladies.
Oh, there it is.
Wanda, we might have you back next week then if Caitlin's.
Hey, I'm here. When you girls want me, I'll be there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye.